Hey all, FrozenFoxy here, and welcome to another Let's Rant with FrozenFoxy. Today I want to talk a little bit about Portal. Yeah, Portal. A lot of people have been saying that Portal 2 deviates very far away from the original Portal, and basically have been saying that they didn't like it because it seems to deviate away from the story of the original Portal. To be honest, I think that it does not deviate at all from the story of the original Portal, and people are failing to see that. It's a big problem because a lot of people don't really recognize the little nuances and subtleties that there are in Portal. And I think that's what's really great about the game is you can either delve really far into it and see all those little things that are behind the scenes, or you can pace yourself and put yourself further away and just enjoy the puzzles. It's a really amazing kind of game in that you can get into it deep or you cannot. And a lot of people thought, well, this isn't really a puzzle game, this has become a story game, and everyone wanted another puzzle game once they came to play Portal 2. And the problem was, it was more about delving into the story that was only hinted at in the original game. And the thing I'd like to touch on here that I think is really neat that they did is more or less revealing who Shell is. And as you may or may not know, Shell is the main character. Some people like to pronounce it Chell and all that kind of stuff. I like Shell, to be honest. Shelly sounds cool. But anyway, so Shell. Let's talk about Shell. Who is Shell? We really don't know. Or do we? See, here's the thing. We have Shell suddenly being tested in the very first Portal game. She is in some kind of hibernation. She's in some kind of bed. She's being protected. She's obviously being fed and taken care of, all that kind of stuff. And she seems to be maybe in her mid-20s or so. She isn't that old. And to not be that old and also be there, she has to not be a scientist for the most part, because from what we see in Portal 2, a lot of the people who were scientists were older people. And even in the original Portal game, GLaDOS does mention that Shell is not even someone who really works there. She's not a scientist, all that kind of stuff. Now, at the end of Portal 2, I'd like to stop here and say that there are going to be some spoilers right here if you have not played Portal 2 all the way to the end. Anyways, at the end of Portal 2, there are a bunch of singing turrets. Now, these turrets, while they may sound like they're just humming and all that kind of stuff, for those people who don't realize it, they're actually singing. And here's the thing, the one that is singing words is singing in Italian. Furthermore, the one that's singing is Ellen McLean. Now, who is that? Well, if you don't know, that is the voice of GLaDOS. Also, if you don't know, she is an opera singer in real life. So, yes, she can sing just fine. Now, a lot of people don't really know what the words are that she's singing. So, I'm going to go ahead and read a quick translation here for anyone who didn't get that as it was going by near the ending. Yeah, here's basically what she sings. My dear, beautiful darling, beautiful little girl, oh Shell, what a shame, what a shame. Well, my dear, goodbye, my dear little girl. Why don't you stay away? Yes, away from science. My dear, dear little girl. My lovely, my dear, my little girl. Dear, dear to me. Now, if that didn't give you chills and you're a fan of Portal, I don't know what will. Here's the point that has just been made by that song if it went over your head. Shell is probably GLaDOS's daughter. Yeah, that's right. Shell is GLaDOS's daughter. I had this inkling for the longest time when I was playing the game that Shell might be related to GLaDOS, especially when I started getting the inkling when I was playing the second game that GLaDOS was a person before becoming a computer. Now, there's something in the original Portal that also indicates that they were thinking about this fact in the original Portal before they came out with Portal 2. Really, Portal 1 was like a test just to swish the waters, see what people thought, and if they thought enough about it, they were going to expand it into an actual story. I think that was the plan all along. But here's the part I'm talking about. At one point in the game, it says, it starts talking about bring your daughter to work day. It says that that is the perfect day to have her tested. I asked the question during the game, have her tested for what? Well, here's the test. She was going through the chambers. If Shell is GLaDOS's daughter, she is being tested right there throughout that entire game. The entire game is a test. GLaDOS may not remember why she's testing that girl, but somewhere deep down, she does subconsciously know that she needs to test her. She doesn't remember why, but she does remember from her recordings that there's a bring her daughter to work day for testing. The only testing that they really ever did was portal guns, mixing DNA, all that kind of stuff. And the only thing that ever panned out was stuff to do with portals. And we see a lot of that in Portal 2, especially when we're listening to Cave Johnson and all the things that he went through throughout the years to try and create Aperture Science as a leading science organization. We also see in the original Portal some slides talking about Black Mesa and how they're against Black Mesa. And in the second Portal game, we're seeing Cave Johnson talking about people stealing his ideas, especially things like Black Mesa. So basically, we're really seeing a lot of connections in both games, and my favorite being the fact that Shell seems to be the daughter of GLaDOS. I really like that thought. That's a really, really neat thought. Which makes me also wonder if Shell happens to know something, and being a silent protagonist, we don't actually get to hear her thoughts, even though she might know more about what's going on than we really do while we're going through these puzzles and trying to escape. It's a really interesting idea. I also like the fact that it's in the Half-Life universe, and that Half-Life even calls out to it with Aperture Science logos sitting in the background when you're playing through Half-Life. That's just really neat that they thought of all these things, and that there's also various secrets that are in Portal 2 that even plant things like ships disappearing, and that is talked about in Half-Life. So we see that across the games, and it's amazing how well planned out this stuff is. To that end, I would really, really love to see Half-Life 3 or Half-Life 2 Episode 3, whatever it's going to be, because I know, based on the fact that all of this is planned out so well, that whatever they come up with for Half-Life is going to be absolutely amazing. It would be amazing if somehow Shell meets up with Gordon Freeman. I know that's probably completely impossible, especially because the timelines don't really match up. especially because she was under for a very, very long time until the events of Portal 2 happened, and that would mean that Gordon Freeman is probably long dead. But but it would be really amazing if there was some kind of meetup that happened, or at least some kind of passing. You know, that kind of happened with Left 4 Dead, which is obviously another Valve game, where we had the passing happening within Left 4 Dead 2 and Left 4 Dead 1. And we got to see that the characters were meeting up at one point during this zombie apocalypse. I really love how Valve has the capability to just throw together some amazing characters. Even if you really don't like the characters, they're still amazing. They've got a lot of personality to them. And then eventually, even though they're in completely different games, they somehow meet up. Or at least they somehow could know each other in some way, shape, or form. That is a really, really neat idea that Valve is thinking so far ahead to connect these dots. And the dots are very visible. They're very visible, but they're also very easy to overlook. And that's really neat. So, I hope that everyone who's listened to this feels like doing some more digging into Portal, maybe Half-Life, Left 4 Dead, any of those, and just checking out all the little things that they put into these games because they are masterpieces. And to really appreciate them, you have to look a lot harder. It's like a good painting, really. Sometimes you just see the big picture and you don't see the little things. The little things that have been placed into the art that you haven't been noticing. Like maybe there's a little girl playing in the background with her ball, or maybe she's lost her ball and someone is helping her out, and that ball happens to be a potato that's fallen down a hole, and that potato happens to be related to her in some way, shape, or form, but she doesn't know it. She has no idea that this potato ball is related to her. She has no idea that this potato ball is someone she used to know. Someone that could have been her mother. It's pretty interesting. I'll see y'all later. Bye for now.